Hello, everybody. I am so excited today because I have a very special guest. We have Tiffany here today.
Hi.
Thanks for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a mom and a wife, and I make weird videos on the internet, silly ones, trying to bring awareness to subjects that people feel weird talking about. I'm also a speaker and an author.
Mm. Oh, that's beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit more about your book?
Sure. I am a recovering addict. In November, I will have 10 years clean, and it was quite a journey. My story was not very different from most addicts as far as despair and helplessness and desperation. There were a few elements of my story that do set me apart, like I was in a relationship with a deputy sheriff at the time of my addiction. And I was kind of leading a double life. And so the book picks up when I'm in jail, and the story kind of unfolds, and the readers find out how I got to jail. And then through flashbacks, they see the situations that led up to my arrest. And um, I just I never planned on making it a book. It started off as a blog that I would write every week. And then a lot of people were like, I would love to send this to my loved one who's incarcerated. I think it might help them. And so then I Googled how to write a book and I wrote it. And it's been surprisingly successful. And the most surprising thing, I think, is how much loved ones of addicts are learning from the book. I had no idea, that that would happen. And I'm just so grateful for it. So I'm in the process of writing my second book now, and there's no release date yet, but it's coming.
That's awesome. What is your process for writing this book?
Uh, it's been a nightmare actually because I have no process.
Mm.
And so I have moments where I sit down and write 5 chapters and then I won't touch it for months. And then the publisher's like, hey, just checking in. And then I'm like, oh, okay, yes, you're right. I have to do this. But this past year has been, it's been tough to stay focused. So, but yeah, so I've been setting a little bit of time aside each week to write.
Mm. No, I so get it. I've been writing my book for 26 years and it's in
Yeah, you
here,
get it.
but I just got to like tie myself down long enough to actually like, and then I'm like,
Right.
I should probably do laundry.
Uh,
Oh my God, did I eat? Who needs to eat?
yep,
How about the dogs? Did the dogs eat? Oh, maybe today I am gonna take care of all the spider webs outside.
exactly.
Great idea.
That's it. That's what happens.
That's what happens.
100%.
It's coming out though. It's happening.
Yes.
Ah. Well, that is so. I I read your book. It was been a couple of years ago, but I was so inspired how you're being so vulnerable and sharing so authentically, and
Mm.
like it paves the way for others to do the same. This knowing that we're not alone. My low may not have been as low as yours, but it's still. I felt ashamed even to say that I had a problem. You know,
Mm.
like I for the first 5 years of my sobriety, it's been over 8 now. I didn't tell anyone.
Really?
Mhm.
Did you just, how'd you, just by yourself, you
Yeah,
got sober?
yeah,
Wow, that is hard to do.
yeah. It's not. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It's lonely, and I thought I was the only one. And I love your videos. With the depression, anxiety, fear. Conference every morning. And then we
Yep.
have a little addiction monster. Like, why don't you just have one? Just one.
Hmm.
No one even know. You don't have a problem. You Googled it. You don't have a problem. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, that's why I never could have done it myself. If it wasn't for the people in recovery who helped me when I was clueless, I never would have made it because my brain is so messed up and my brain got me into that mess. And so I
Mhm.
needed to take my brain to a professional to help get me out. And so I admire you for still going. That's
Mhm.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, just after, fortunately now I have, that's what took so much courage, even just saying it out loud, like I have a problem, I need help. And it wasn't like I had not recovered those first 5 years. I was basically just staying away.
White knuckling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you finally found the courage to share your truth and get extra help and support because I'm sure it's made a difference.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And that's why I'm so grateful for people like you who are sharing about it. And then we can just take away all the shame and blame and just like, you're not alone. It's
Yeah.
fine. And you, yeah, don't do it alone. Don't do what I did because it's hard. And it's not.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have lasted a day. I tried to do it alone so many times, but I could talk myself into anything. So I would have been like, well, let's just start next week because next week is less busy than this week, and we're going to need to be on top of our game. And then, next week rolls around and there's another reason why it won't work. And so I had to, well, my story, the police intervened and took the choice from me. But that's what I needed. I think at the time I detoxed in jail and, I couldn't get drugs if I tried. So, and then once the drugs left my system long enough, I was like, okay, now I need to get help. I need to figure out how to live without the drugs because I don't want to go back. There were so many
Mhm.
people who just, they'd get released from jail while I was there and rearrested. And I never wanted to, the minute I got out of those doors and I was free, I never wanted to come back.
What do you think was different for you that why you had that realization?
Well, I think all along, like I knew, I mean, for some people, it's all they know. They grew up with addiction. They weren't dealt the greatest cards. And so when they get out of jail, they just go back to what they've known. They have no other option. So they go right back to that, bad part of town or those friends who aren't making the best choices because their choices are so limited. For me, I think I was lucky in that I was raised, you know, in a privileged. And so I know what life could be like when you do the right thing. And so when I was released, I I knew what I was capable of. I knew that it was possible for me to have a good life. And
Mhm.
my father had gotten sober also while I was in jail, and his love really encouraged me because when he visited me in jail and told me that he had gotten sober and that we could do the recovery thing together as a family, it made me realize that somebody out there still loves me despite the terrible things that I'd done. And if this person could love me, I could try to love myself. And so me and my
Mm.
dad kind of started out together in recovery. And I went to a halfway house because I knew or no, I'm sorry, I went to rehab because I knew I needed help with my brain. And so I desperately sought out help. Besides, like, I had nowhere else to go after jail. I had burned every bridge and hurt everybody. Nobody was going to let me back in. And I knew that. And I wanted to prove to everybody and myself that I could get back to the person I was before the drugs.
Mm. And do you know, like, have you gotten to the root of why you started in the first place? Like,
I think I have an idea of why I started. And I think it's because when I was young, I had a lot of anxiety and a little bit of depression and self-esteem issues. I was picked on a lot, and so I had all these feelings inside, but I never talked about them because I didn't know the words for them. I didn't know that nobody else felt that way. There wasn't a lot of conversations about what was going on in my head when I was little, and I think I used humor a lot to kind of mask the seriousness of what was going on. And so anytime, let's say my mother did, which I have no memory of, but if she had tried to talk to me about what was wrong, I probably would have joked and said everything was fine because I wouldn't want to burden her with my issues. And so when I took that first sip of alcohol and I felt numb. I felt nothing.
Mm.
I didn't feel insecure. I didn't feel worried. I didn't feel anything. That was when I was like, oh, this is good. This is what life should feel like. And so then I just chased that and just self-medicated. And, you know, if I had known then what I know now about myself, I might have handled the situation differently if I had gotten a doctor's help and maybe gotten on some medication and talked about it and done therapy.
Mm.
I think things might have been different, but then again, I don't know. So I went through what I went through so that I could end up here where I am today, which is a life greater than I could have ever dreamed. And the worst point of my life, my arrest and everything, was actually a springboard into the best part of my life. So there, you know, I'm not glad everything happened because I did hurt a lot of people. But I am glad that I got to go through the experience and the pain and the loss so that I could appreciate what I do have now.
Mm. Oh my goodness, I hear all that. I really do.
Sorry, am I talking a lot? I just drank a huge espresso coffee. I just realized I've been running my mouth nonstop. I'm sorry.
That's why we're here. Are you kidding? No apologies.
Hey,
You're awesome. I love
oh,
everything you're saying.
thank you.
It's so true. And I hear that too, that like the shift, because I can feel very depressed, sad, bitter, angry when I feel about like my trigger was childhood trauma, like sexual
Mm,
abuse.
mm,
And then exactly what you're saying, I remember having that first sip of alcohol at, I don't know, 15 or so. And I'm like, whoa, the worry
yeah.
is gone. I don't have to like obsessively think of everything again. Because
Mm.
when I told people about what had happened to me, it was met with, that never happened. That can't be true. I
No,
didn't have words for it. So like, I started feeling like I was going crazy. Like it was like all in my head, like not being good enough. I made it up. It didn't happen. I'm all alone. You
I
know,
can't fathom that. I can't fathom
yeah.
you as a child trying to tell someone and them saying that you're making it up. Like it's preposterous to me and it breaks my freaking heart. Like I'm so sorry that nobody believed you. You deserve to be believed. And that really kills me that you didn't have that safe place. I'm so sorry. I hate it. Where are they? I'll punch them right in the face. Point them out. I can't believe it. But look at you. I mean, look at what you're doing. You know, you're making a difference in the lives of others and you're turning that into something that helps other people. And that's, I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
I never experienced that kind of trauma. So it really baffles me how many people have. And it baffles me how many people tried, like found the courage to speak out about it and tell the truth and were met with disbelief and opposition. Like I can't relate to it. And so it's so hard for me to fathom, but as a parent, it seriously, like I could feel it in my heart. Like it's painful to think about that happening to my child. And ugh.
I know that, and that's the main reason I do these things too, is for my kids, because I'm trying to become healthier and the best parent I can possibly be. And like my youngest daughter now is 7. So just seeing her like just seeing the life and the joy and just thinking of that light just like dwindling at that age, like it breaks my heart. So
Was that the age? I mean, this is none of my business, but
yeah,
was that the age that you were?
yeah, 7. Mhm.
I mean, looking at your kid, could you ever freaking imagine This must be a weird time for you too, because if this was the age that you are and this is the age that your child is, every time you look at her,
Mhm.
it must be like a reminder of that dark time in your life.
Mhm.
Is it? Or am I
It's
just
it's it's not a the thing is, I'm just so grateful for the work that I have been doing, and I'm also seeing therapists. I've done
good?
so much work on myself to actually, in a way, change it to being grateful for even the fact that the reason I'm even in Florida, I grew up in Sweden, is because of what happened. The reason I
Really?
even I left when this was my grandfather, when he died. I didn't know why, but that's why I left Sweden. And on that trip, when I left Sweden, I met my husband. So in a way, I wouldn't have this
You
daughter if it. So like that's kind of my point, is that if I can shift the mindset and just being like, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but it happened to me. And the most wonderful thing came out of it. I now have three
mm,
amazing children. I live in paradise, and
yeah,
I get to talk about it to help others, thanks to
yeah.
people like you who have paved the way. So like when we can
Wow.
shift that mindset and just, and I never got a chance to confront my grandfather, because when I remembered, I had tucked it so deep inside of myself, he had passed away. And
Oh, really?
yeah,
Well, he's paying for it now, wherever he is.
but the thing is what happened in his case was that the same thing had happened to other children in my family, and their parents did believe them, so he did spend time in jail for what he had
Oh,
done. And
oh, but how? Oh my
but not
God.
because of what happened to me. But it's just,
How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel like justice was served? Or are you like, dang, I wish I could have joined in on that? Like,
yeah.
I have two questions. And
Yeah.
again, tell me to shut up, but I'm learning a lot. I have heard cases of people remembering later.
Yeah.
And was there ever a moment that you like doubted yourself or questioned it? Or was it the other relatives coming out that triggered that memory in your mind for you?
Well, it was interesting not having been believed, and then in my mind convincing myself that it had not happened. I didn't find out that he had been in prison until much later, because my parents were told to not talk to me about it. So I didn't know, but I always knew, like my body kept track. Like, and I had that, like the anxiety, the depression, the just that like something was wrong. I gone to so many doctors trying to figure out what's wrong with my body, but it was all like in here. My body's just trying to protect me. So I knew something was wrong. So when I finally remembered in therapy, it was like a release. It's like, oh my God, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So it's
It's baffling and heartbreaking. And I'm glad that you are where you are now, despite somebody trying their best to dim your light. You just look really bright right now. And I don't know if it's the white shirt or the blonde hair or you're by a window or what, but you just look like ethereal, bright light. Where are you in Florida?
in Sarasota.
Shut up. Do you know that I'm in Sarasota? This is the second podcast interview in a row that I've done, and the person lives in Sarasota.
That's awesome. It's the place to
I
be.
think you were talking to my assistant. Did
Yeah.
you tell her that you lived in Sarasota?
Yeah.
She didn't tell me. How did you hear about me?
Well, I found you online, and I thought you were really funny, and I've seen you around town too. But it's kind of like the monkey,
At Taco Bell or where? I don't really go anywhere.
school.
Wait,
But this was like before COVID.
hold on. Do you have a son?
Yes.
Stop. I saw your email a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I asked one of my kids, I'm like, do you know who this kid is? Do you know his mom? Is she weird? Is she cool? Like, what? Was it my daughter who had a class?
I think so.
What grade is
Yeah.
your son in?
He's in 6th now.
Oh, it was my stepdaughter,
Oh,
Aubrey, who went to school. I
yeah.
almost said the school's name. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's so
So,
Sarasota, right? I love it. So such a
yeah,
small town.
it is. That's so awesome. Oh, how cool. Well, I'm gonna have to stay in touch with you after this then. And
Yeah, I'd love to.
oh my gosh, how funny.
Mhm.
If I haven't freaked you out, you're like, my kid's never having a play date with your kid. I'm like, yeah.
You're just holding up the mirror for how crazy I am, so it's all good.
Perfect. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, I'm looking at your last name right now. It makes sense. Everything is like clicking in my head. I'm so disorganized. And my brain, for some, I mean, not for some reason, it was probably the years of drug use, but it doesn't retain information very well. And it's so dumb because I can remember every song from like a kid's, like every word to a song from a kid's show from my childhood, but I can't remember like what I told someone last week. It's my short-term memory is horrible.
Oh, I
Um,
can relate to that. And you know what? I I was listening to something that Oprah was talking about how our memories work like that, and that can actually be something that we do to protect ourselves. So something it's like our body's way is like, okay, you did a lot of weird things, or a lot of weird things happened to you. I'm gonna help you not having the best memory. And my oldest daughter, she is 13 now, and we like to watch movies together. And I'm like, okay, you know how mom is, and I have watched this before, and the way I
yeah,
remember it was a good movie.
yeah.
And then
Well,
she'll be
that's
like,
nice of my brain.
Mom, yeah, I don't trust you anymore because this movie was really weird, and you didn't remember all these weird things that that happened. And I'm like, yeah, so
So
okay,
funny.
yeah.
But that's cool to think about that our brain protects us.
Yeah.
I just wish it would cancel out all the bad memories and like help me remember important things like doctor's appointment. That
Well,
would
that's
be
why we
helpful.
have calendars, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or assistants. You're doing it though. I
I
mean,
just got an assistant. It's
yeah,
been life changing.
it's very fancy.
I know. Finally, I have an assistant. I'm like, can you please book my dentist appointment for me?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm too rich and famous to do it myself. I'm just kidding. But it is, that's what it feels like every time. Like the devil wears Prada. I don't know if you've ever seen
Oh,
that movie.
yes,
I don't know
yes.
if you know if you've ever seen that movie.
I do know I've seen it, and my memory serves me right. It was really funny.
That's so funny.
Oh, this is so awesome. Okay. Oh, this is one thing that when I did finally reach out for help after my 5 first years, I did kind of I indirectly I not that I get a sponsor, but it wasn't official. But the first thing she told me was, okay, so you haven't been drinking for 5 years. What else did you do? What did you like move on to? And I'm like, what do you mean? And then I started thinking about it. And my thing then was going to the gym obsessively, to the
Mm,
point where I actually fainted and walked around with a black eye for a good couple of weeks.
wow.
So did you have any experience like that? Did you move on to something else?
Yes. It doesn't matter what it is. Like my addict behaviors absolutely show up in so many different things. And so food was my first addiction and it still is. I have a very unhealthy relationship with food to the point where, I'll binge and eat and eat and consume thousands and thousands and thousands of calories. And then I'll feel guilty about it. So then I'll just eat like 4 carrots for a couple of days. And then I feel guilty about that. So then I go, it's just like back and forth. And I've been to therapy about it and everything. So food, I'm addicted to caffeine, I think. I don't know if I actually have to have it every day, but I do have it every day because I'm telling myself you need this in order to function, which is the same thing that I used to do with drugs. Um,
Mm.
I can get addicted to really weird things like looking on Etsy for 5 hours at pendant necklaces. And it's all I think about and it's all I want to do. And I just hyper fixate on these things. And so when I notice my addict behaviors coming up, regardless of whether it's drugs or something else, I know that something's off balance in me. And so I try to figure out what that is and get it balanced. And I have found that when I'm sleeping well and eating well and taking care of my mental health, I don't need something else to fill that void. But if I'm not sleeping or I'm sad or I'm trying to avoid the world, then that's when I get into these addicty behaviors.
Mm. So what are some things that you do then? Like, do you reach out to people or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a lot of really good friends in recovery, meditation, which I haven't been doing a lot of lately, painting, which I don't know if that counts because I kind of throw myself into that and escape.
Mhm.
But if it's, a lack of sleep, then getting good sleep becomes my number one priority. If it's unhealthy eating habits, then that becomes my number one priority. If I'm not going to meetings or talking to a sponsor, and not staying connected to that thing that got me sober in the first place, then I do more of that. Like whatever I feel like is lacking in my life, I do more of that until it eventually balances out again. And honestly, there's never a balance, but it helps kind of keep it closer to an even pie chart. Like that's how I picture it in my head. Is like my mental
Mm.
health, my physical health, and my spiritual health, and they're all equal. And so um, sometimes one is much larger than the other. Sometimes they're all little pies. And so I just try to get them all kind of even in my head. I don't know what
Mm.
I'm doing.
I love that though, because sometimes it's just as simple. Like this week, I haven't been sleeping well, and then I wake up and I just want to cry, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my god, it's over, and then I just like cancel everything. I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. I'm not going to write a book. I'm not doing anything. And then the
Yeah.
easy fix is just like take a freaking nap.
Yeah.
You can take a nap. And I'm like, no, no, no. I'm going to cancel this meeting and that meeting. And I don't know what I was doing with like going on Instagram. That's silly. Cancel, cancel. But no,
Yep. I
take a
get
nap.
it.
I'm fine.
Avoidance.
Yeah, cancel it. Like, and especially with people that see right through me. Like, I can't see them possibly because they will know what to do.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's what I've been noticing recently too. It's like I can almost have like an addiction to suffering because in a way it feels uh familiar, not comfortable, but familiar.
That's so profound.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that just blew my mind. Yeah, that makes so much sense in my head. As soon as you said it, it clicked. I get that. And not comfortable but familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like working under pressure, under deadlines, being in a panic and just rushing around and stressing is all I know. And so if things are going smoothly, then I'm like, wait, time to mess it up. Time to sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
exactly. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. And then we have all kinds of great ideas in here for how to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, and make a plan.
Yeah.
I love the videos you have about the morning meetings in the
Thank you.
like, what is this rash? Maybe we can spend a whole day trying to figure out what this rash is about.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. Go
And then
down
we
that
can
rabbit
write
hole.
our last will and testament because this rash will probably kill us. And we have to figure out what happens when we die.
But it's too
Yeah.
soon. Oh, oh, oh my goodness. Let's see. So, so yeah, here's a good question. What advice would you give to somebody who's struggling today, who's just like thinking they have a problem with alcohol or any of these things that we have brought up.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody thinks that they might have a problem, the next step would be being convinced you have a problem. Because I think when you think you have a problem, that's like the beginning stages um, of recognizing that something might be wrong. And so my advice would be to examine your behaviors and ask yourself these two questions. Is my life unmanageable because of this thing? And am I powerless over this thing? And maybe not in that order, but either way, if you answer yes to those two questions, then thinking you have a problem, it becomes kind of more like, oh, I do have a problem. And so if your life is unmanageable because of it and you're powerless to stop it, then that's when you know you might need a little bit of help. And there's all kinds of different help available. There's rehabilitation programs where if you just want to hit the reset button and go and take a little break from life and responsibilities and really focus on yourself. I know that that's not always feasible for people. They have outpatient programs, they have detox centers, they have places that take insurance, places that take sliding scale. But the first step would be admitting that you have a problem. And then the next step would be researching what to do about it. And there's all kinds of links and websites and everything out there. And the truth of the matter is, reaching out for the help and accepting the help and becoming willing to do whatever it takes is the greatest gift that you could ever give yourself and those around you.
Mm. Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that's so interesting because where I was too, I did like Google if I had a problem, and then the for me the results came back inconclusive because
Mm.
I didn't really drink alone, but I knew like inside that I had a problem. And now when I think about it, yeah, it's just so interesting how I could talk myself out of it too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because it's uncomfortable to change. Change is uncomfortable. And if this
Yeah.
is your coping mechanism, having to convince yourself that you don't need it anymore is really hard.
Yes. Oh yes. Like when I actually, one of the first things I did was I was very, very, very addicted to cigarettes. Like they were my best friends.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so you tell me how to quit smoking without smoking? Like, how can I
Yeah.
do this? How can I do this without my friends? They're there for me.
Mhm.
Like, and then I did read this book, The Easy Way to Quit by Alan Carr. And the reason I even opened the book was because you could smoke like during, and he written books for drinking too, and anything that you might have a problem with. And you can continue this behavior, bring your friend on the journey. And then because I would just sit there and like smoke because I was so stressed out because I had to quit.
Yeah.
So now I would smoke more. But then you
Mhm.
kind of learn all these tips and tricks as you're like, okay, actually take a look at what you're doing. Think about it, like going into your lungs, really feel it in your lungs, like, and just like, what do you think it's doing to your body? And one of the things that really got me too is like, where are you right now in the physical? Where are you standing right now? Like I started smoking when I was 15 because it was cool and hip and all my friends were doing it. But as I was reading this book, I was standing in an alley in the middle of the Chicago winter by myself, right next to a dumpster. The party was going on inside, like all my friends were inside. And I'm like, why didn't I get the memo? Like,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah.
This is not fun. But we just
Yeah.
have to like, see ourselves from the outside, kind of.
Yeah. And it gets to a point in everybody, I think, where you're like, this isn't fun anymore. And I'm kind of just doing it because I have to,
Mm.
and that's the beginning stages of realizing, like, do I need this, or do I want this, or do I need this? And that's how it was for me. I was doing it. I didn't have a choice. In my head, I didn't have a choice. In order to not feel sick, like in order to not detox, in order to not feel like I was dying, I had to keep doing the drugs. And so they owned me.
Mm,
and I was leashed to them. I was chained to them, and I couldn't part ways with them at all. And now, I mean, I'm just free. I'm free. I can go on vacations. I can go anywhere I want, and I don't have to make sure I have a pill to get me through. And it's really a real gift.
mm, yeah, I really get that. And then another word that came up as I've been doing this self-healing and is like codependency. And I
Hmm.
didn't know what that was. Is that something that you have experience with?
I actually went to Codependency Anonymous for a little while. Um, I'm not super experienced with it, but I definitely am very I'm codependent, I believe. It's in the beginning stages of me understanding, but like with my spouse, for example, like I gave him the power to determine how my day was going to go. I stopped learning how to do things around the house and just relied on him to do it. And before I knew it, like I don't even know the code to our bank account. I don't know how to turn the lights on in the garage, and um, I get like that. If somebody's there who makes me feel safe, then I kind of just shut down and turn into a little kid. And yeah, I could be codependent with anything, really.
Mm,
Friends. So that's something that I'm in the process of discovering about myself.
mm. Yeah, I find it so interesting how for me it's about one of the things that they talk about in this book I was reading, Codependent No More, I think it's called.
That's the book I got.
Oh, really? It's
Yeah, I got that
awesome.
book. Yeah.
It's the the Cartman drama triangle. How you get to first you get to put on your cape. You're like do do do. I'm gonna save the world. Whatever it might be. Like in my case, I we're vegan, and I feel like it's like this gift to humanity. So I need to like tell everybody about it. And
Hmm.
then in the beginning of doing this, I'm like, I have found a solution to your health problems, to your no more animal suffering, and to the environment. And why aren't you doing anything? Because the next thing is persecution. So you go from like saving the world to like attacking people. And this can happen like at home too. Just like, okay, I'm going to make dinner tonight. And just like doing all these things, and then the kids don't come right as I tell them that dinner's ready, and then I go straight from being the hero to this like, oh, why are you
Yeah.
not here, you're so ungrateful, just like and then the next part of that triangle is victim, which again is like my familiar old pattern, uncomfortable but comfortable for me. So in the past I would have like stomped into my room like a little toddler, just like
Yeah.
why aren't you eating this food or whatever, it would be. And then I get to like curl up in a little ball and feel sorry for myself.
Yep.
So that's
Yep.
one of my
I like
favorite
that.
games, it turns out, to play. But now that
Yeah.
I'm aware of it, I can kind of catch myself in this triangle. And my husband plays his own. So I see us a little bit like in those little triangles you get to play it in music class, and we kind of get them kind of like hooked in each other, so we don't really know where we are in the triangle. But we just kind of like, okay, right now you're trying to rescue everybody, and I'm just in my victim because you're trying to rescue me. And then I get, it's just like,
Wow.
whoa, we're exhausting. This is exhausting.
Yeah.
It's like,
Interesting.
yeah.
I want to look into that a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my favorite parties are pity parties.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then you can be like, oh, I tried to plan this for these people. They said, no, thank you, we can't. And then you be, they don't love me. I'm never going to plan
Mhm.
anything for them ever again. I'm alone. Sad.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Restart. Oh, today I am going
Yeah.
to do.
Yep. Sounds familiar.
Ah, I don't know. I hear you about having laughter be like a defense mechanism, because I it's good though. It's good. It's good to laugh.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I have one question here. Last question.
Okay.
What do you wish someone would have told you?
Dang. What, like when I was a kid?
No, when you were like in the middle of addiction, is there anything that anybody else could have said? Or was it
Ah,
all,
I wonder this a lot, is there something somebody could have said that would have altered the course of my addiction? And it always feels like I'm trying, would be trying to put blame on somebody else for me not getting help. But what I will say is when I was using, nobody ever called me out on it. I thought I had it hidden, and all my loved ones and friends have come out and say, no, we knew that you were using the whole time. And I'm like, why didn't you say anything?
mm,
And they said it's because they didn't want to scare me away or make me angry, because apparently I was like a hair pulled trigger uh mood person. And so if somebody accused me of using, or criticized me in any way, I would cut him out of my life. And so I think they were afraid that I would do that, and I probably would have. But maybe if somebody had just said, hey, we don't have to talk about it right now, we don't have to talk about it ever, but I just want to let you know that I see in your eyes, something is different about you. And if you're hurting or you're in pain or you feel stuck or helpless, just know that I'm here and I'll always love you no matter what. And I'll always be here, even if a couple of nights from now, a couple of weeks from now, a year from now, you think about it and you're ready, to talk about it. Just know that I'm here. And I'd probably be like, what are you even talking about? Stupid weirdo, get out of my face. And then later on, I'd be like crying and trying to figure out how to end my life, which was a daily thing. And I'd probably be like, that person knows and they're still willing to help me. And I might reach out to them, but I don't know if there's anything anybody could have said or done apart from that that would have made any kind of difference to me. I don't know.
yeah, it's so interesting. It really is very interesting because this is like I have a very analytical mind, so I want to solve
Me too.
all the world's problems.
Me
And
too.
really that's but that's what they're talking about at Al-Anon. Like that there's really nothing you can do, and that you almost have to let them fail. Like the addict, let us fail for us to understand um, that there are consequences. I mean, that was the reason that I stopped drinking, because my husband, we didn't know it at the time, but he was definitely enabling my
Yeah.
my drinking, and he would always get me home, and until one day he didn't. And that's what really shook me to my core. It was just like, oh my
Mhm.
God.
Nobody's coming to save you.
Yeah. And no one's filling in the blank. I don't know what I did. How did I get home? Like, where's my purse? Like, I always used to be able to ask him, who did I talk to? What happened? Where, you know? And it was
Yep.
just like, oh my God, I have 3 kids. No, at the time I had 2 kids. I had 2 kids. Like that. No,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. It's very powerful. And I definitely think that I had to experience the consequences of my actions in order to find the willpower to want to change. Because if
mm,
life was comfortable and there were no consequences, why the heck would I want to stop?
yeah.
But it's so deep and it's so sad because loved ones of addicts just don't know what to do. And then sometimes people tell them tough love, and then they give them tough love, and then the addict dies, and then the person blames themselves for the rest of their life. And,
Mm,
that same person could have given that addict a place to stay and money, and the addict could have taken that money and used it for drugs and died anyway. And there's so much like guilt and blame for the loved ones of addicts, and it's so hard. So I always try to approach this subject so carefully, because I don't ever want, there's no magic answer for the loved ones of addicts. There's no right way to do it, but the wrong way, in my opinion, is giving them money and buying them cigarettes and enabling making their life easy in addiction, because why else? you can still love them, you can still be there for them, you can still, support them, but you have to protect yourself too. And addicts will take anybody down with them. And so Al-Anon's a great resource.
Mm, yeah.
And Nar-Anon.
What was that called?
Nar-Anon for narcotics.
Oh, of
Um, so it's
course.
like Al-Anon, but for,
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful.
yeah.
Oh, that it just warms my heart. I guess I've gone to a couple of different meetings here in town, and I just the community there. I just like want to put myself in these meetings like 8 years ago when I felt like I was just me, because I didn't think, since Google told me I didn't have a problem, I didn't feel like I felt like I would get laughed out the door,
Yeah.
And it's like the opposite. Like there's such like welcoming community, just like you're not alone. Please come back. Do come back. It only works if you come back, you're
Yeah.
welcome here. Have a seat and just
Yeah. It's amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
even have to say anything that the ever,
Yeah.
if you don't want to,
Yeah.
Ah, oh, makes me so happy. Oh,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for your time today. I know you had a big day with your kids, and so thank you.
Yeah. It was my pleasure. It was so great talking to you. I'm sure I'll see you.
Yes, I would love that very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye.